I want to read. Okay, so what did you guys talk about? What kinds of insights did you derive from your conversations about Bloom and Derek-Kashani?
In my group, we discussed that consumerism may not be as evil as we all think.
Okay. And Itzel, I think I remember in your group, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard you guys talking about how you were going to approach the essay, what kind of argument you were planning to make. Is that correct?
Yes.
That was your group? Okay, good. Do you guys want to share some of those things with the rest of the class? Some of the things you talked about in terms of your approach to deciding on a position for essay 1? No?
Like for my essay, I'm planning on
Oh, Itzel, I think we lost you. We lost Itzel. Okay, that's fine. We can move on. Oh, she's back. No?
Can you guys hear me? I'm having some complications with my
I can
computer.
hear you now.
Okay. Oh no, like I was saying on my essay, I'm planning on disagreeing, like con towards consumerism.
Okay. So you're going to argue that consumerism is mostly bad.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I also believe, like I'm kind of like undecided because in a way, I believe that we can just blame consumerism. It's our decision, you know? So we decide. It's not like they're putting a gun to our head and telling us like, oh, do this, do that.
That's right. I mean, you know, that's a valid point, right? And that's what Twitchell argues, isn't it? You guys remember? He says, we're not being manipulated. We have consciously chosen to go this way. Why? Because we like it, right? But who would disagree with him? What authors would disagree with that claim by Twitchell? That individuals are making a conscious choice to consume in the way in which they do.
I don't know which article.
That's okay. Angel says Derek-Kashani, right? Yeah, and Daniel agrees. Derek-Kashani would disagree that individuals are making a conscious choice. He thinks that we've all been
My bad, I'm
inculcated.
cutting off.
That's okay. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
like I was saying, like they mentioned about the lining up and how people were getting hurt and stuff like that.
Yeah. Derek-Kashani brings up Black Friday as an example of cult-like behavior, right? Where the people aren't behaving rationally and they're not behaving as individuals, making their own choices. They're behaving like a mob, right? A religious, fanatical mob. So Derek-Kashani would disagree, right? What about Kilborn and Flood? What do they think about the assertion that people are making their own conscious choices about how to consume?
Like Kilburn also disagrees because children are consuming other things that are being advertised. For example, alcohol, smoking, and etc.
Yeah, good point. I'm glad you brought up children because she focuses on that. Pablo, were you going to say something?
No, sorry. It's just I just came in late because I was having internet issues right now. I
Oh,
was just
that's okay.
yeah, so I was gonna in fact message you through Canvas right now saying like, you know, I had internet issues and such. And I tried so hard to come in.
Oh, that's okay. We can talk about that later. I understand.
Okay.
Okay. But so back to Kilborn, all right? She focuses on the children. She focuses on women as a group that are targeted by advertisers and that suffer as a result, right? They get sick, they get eating disorders because of these mixed messages that they're getting about how they should look. At the same time, they're being told, here, eat this chocolate cake, right? And she also focuses on children. She talks about Channel 1, as you guys recall, in going into the schools and getting them while they're young, right? Remember that passage from Kilborn? Okay, if I was in class, I'd have you all turn to that passage in your printed copy of this text. That's one of the problems with us doing this kind of work this way. But I'd show you the passage. I'm not going to try to do that now because it's just me switching back and forth between me talking to you this way and showing you my screen. And then I've got to find the Kilborn article and it's a whole thing. All right, but hopefully you can remember that portion where she says, yeah, get the kids while they're young, right? Build their brand loyalty while they're young. And then you'll have a customer for life, right? Can you think of examples of that you've seen in your observations of others or your family or even yourselves where you're committed to a particular brand of something because it's the thing you've always had since you were young? Jordan, okay. Edgar says Jordan. And I assume
Apple products.
Apple products, okay. Edgar, I assume you mean shoes. Is that right? You mean sneakers? Yes, okay, good. Gotta have the Jordans, okay? Right, and that famous guy put his name on those sneakers. Did he design and make the sneakers? No, right? Who makes Jordans? Nike? Don't get mad. I don't know this stuff. Yes, Nike. Okay, I got it right. Thank God. Okay, but people got to have the Jordans with him going like this on them, right? Like they got to have the Uggs. Okay. One of the things that I've noticed is because of my family, not because of me, but there's a huge Ford versus Chevy truck rivalry. Do you guys know about this? Chevrolet. Okay, Edgar's down with Chevy. Call of Duty, cycle game, everyone buy the game every year. Okay, right? So Call of Duty built that brand loyalty so that when a new game comes out, they've got a customer already ready to buy it. Not a customer, but mobs of them. Okay, so in my family, in my extended family, okay, the men have attitudes about trucks. They're Ford people and Chevy is trash. Sorry, Edgar. I don't subscribe. All right, and this is just about what they grew up with and what their dad said was the best truck and their grandfather said was the best truck, right? And let's see if I can think of other brands. Pepsi versus Coke. I don't know if you guys drink cola. I'm sorry, Edgar. Edgar made a sad face in the chat. Okay, but that's what Kilborn's talking about. She's talking about getting them while they're young so that they're not even making conscious choices anymore. And then Flood also, you just drink soda? Good, Pablo. I don't drink soda, so. Levi's, Angel said. Okay, right. And specifically Levi's or Wranglers, right? If that's part of if that's part of a culture, if people are into ranching and horses and, oh, I'm getting a call. Why am I getting a call? That's ridiculous. Sorry about that. I don't like phone calls. They're intrusive. So, those people would all disagree with the idea. And it's all what that just means is that you have to deal with those opposing viewpoints and everybody else. And there are, if you're going to make an argument that consumers are manipulated, right, and that they're not making their own choices, then you're going to have to deal with Twitchell and Bloom, who say, this is what we do. It's in our nature and we like it and it makes us happy. Okay. Let's see how we doing on time.
Also, like Flood also mentions that consumerism can get us into deeper debt problems because we
Right,
want to keep up with the lifestyle that we just can't financially.
right. That leads us to debt because we're always wanting the new thing, right? And that's one of the things that Derek Ashani talks about too. So you could use, if you're going to argue that consumerism is mostly bad, you could use Derek Ashani and Flood together to help support an argument about the issue of happiness, right? Whereas Twitchell says that consuming makes us happy, Derek Ashani says, yeah, but that's only temporary, right, you guys? Remember that? That's an idea that he talks about up here. I'm looking for it. Oh yeah, Derek Ashani says, by definition, the consumer can never be satisfied, at rest or happy. Okay, what does he mean by that? Why can't the consumer ever be satisfied, at rest or happy? By definition. Consumerism depends on people not being satisfied, doesn't it? How come?
Because then there's going to be something else that you're going to want and it's just going to continue.
Yeah, and that leads to debt, right? Like you were saying, Itzel.
Yeah, so you're never going to be happy because there's always going to be something that you're going to want.
Right, and it's a cycle, Maria says. And Edgar says, so they can keep buying and buying, right? That's why, by definition, consumerism will not allow you to be satisfied with what you already have. Sorry, I'm yelling. Am I too loud? I get excited and upset about these things. And then I get emphatic and loud. Okay, but the consumer culture and the economy that depends for 2/3 to our economy depends 70% on consumer activity, people buying stuff. All right, so that our economy stays strong. If people are happy and satisfied with what they already have, they're not going to keep buying stuff. And then the people who want to sell you stuff won't be able to, right? So then Kilborn and Flood, that's one of the arguments they make, is that that's why consumer culture by definition, right, is geared to continue the dissatisfaction. Kilborn says with advertising, right? The advertising does that. It keeps you dissatisfied with your body if you're a woman, right? Your body is just never good enough. If a woman is happy with her body, then she's not going to buy that diet food, and she's not going to, get that gym membership, or, so you got to make people unhappy with the way they are and what they have if you want them to keep buying. All right. So that's why, by definition, people need to never be satisfied with what they have. Otherwise, consumerism isn't working. All right, and Derek Ashani says, which means she will always feel lacking. And furthermore, the pursuit of that kind of happiness, the little twinge of happiness you get when you consume something, creates a vicious circle where you're never ever satisfied, and your anxiety and your dissatisfaction just keeps growing, just keeps getting worse. And then, to Itzel and Flood's point, in order to maintain that little bit of happiness, you need to keep spending, and that leads to debt. So you can have a whole paragraph where you talk about that. Okay? Does that make sense, you guys? Kinda?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the responses. That lets me know you're still out there. And I'm not all alone in this black void with white letters. Okay? Let me share my screen with you and talk about some things here. We can close that. I can close that because I'm all done for today, thank God. There's the list I've been working on, my pro-con chart. all right? And these are the arguments that Twitchell and there's Bloom, and we could add some here to this list, have made in defense of their position in this debate about consumerism. And then here's some that Flood and Kilborn and Derkashani have made, satisfaction, right? And you can see that these match up, right? Or they can. I'm gonna add happy here because one of Twitchell's main arguments is that consumerism makes us happy. But then Derkashani says only temporarily, and that's what we were just talking about. So you can make these two guys argue against each other in a paragraph, right? And then Derkashani says that the way in which we consume, because we consume irrationally and like fanatics, right? Like we're in a cult. He says that that's homogenizing, that it levels individual difference. But Twitchell says the opposite of that. He says, no, the way in which we consume allows us to express our individuality, right? So you can make those guys argue against each other in a paragraph, right? And then Twitchell says the way in which we consume empowers consumers, right? He says it's natural for us to consume the way we do, but Flood says no, it's manufactured, it's artificial, our desire for things. And rather than empowering, Derkashani says no, we're not empowered, we're enslaved, right? We're not liberated, we're enslaved. Okay, so that's what's helpful about categorizing these arguments this way, is you can see how they match up, and then you can decide how to organize an argument that way. All right. Okay, so let's see how much time we have here. All right, I'll just talk briefly about formatting here, and then I'll talk about these assignments before I let you go. So here's that document I said, let me scoot this over, and scoot this over. There we go. Oh, that went down to the bottom. Oh, well. Here's this document I said I was going to show you that gives you an example of how to format your essay for the final draft. You don't need to worry about this for your rough draft, but your final draft should look like this. Everything should be double spaced. It should have a header with your last name, the name, and the number of the page in the upper right-hand corner. And then it should have a heading in the left-hand corner. And then there's your title that should be centered. This is the whole title, right? It's got a colon. That's why it's 2 lines. It's a long title. Yours doesn't have to be this long. Okay. Notice everything's double spaced, like I said. There's no extra line space between the heading and the title. There's no extra line space between the title and the first line of the first paragraph. There's no extra line space between paragraphs. Right? Everything is just double spaced, and it's 1-inch margins all around. Okay. This is a block quote, which is how you format a direct quote, the exact words of the source, if it's more than 4 lines of regular typed text. For example, let's say this is a quote. You're typing along, typing along, typing along. You get to the end of the 4th line, and this is all a direct quote. Right? If you get to the end of the 4th line, you're going to need to format it like this, indented 10 spaces like this. Okay, this is a 5-space indent right here. This is a 10-space indent. Okay, and that formatting tells the reader that this is a direct quote. Okay, that's why it's formatted that way. All right, and then let's look at the works cited page. So you're going to have at least 5 sources on this works cited page, right? You're going to have the 4 sources that you pick from those that I assigned to you, at least 4. And then you're going to have 1 more that you find on your own. All right, so everything's double spaced on the works cited page 2. Notice there's no numbers. These entries are not numbered. There's no bullet points. All right, this is formatted in what's called a hanging indent. That's what this is, where the first line of the source information comes to the margin, and then the next line of this source information gets indented 5 spaces. That's called a hanging indent. All right, and you can see just by looking at it why this is a style formatting requirement, because you can see what information goes with what source, right? All of that information goes together. All of this information goes together, and so on. All right, and everything's double spaced. All right, let me look at a couple more aspects of formatting here. All right, so as you guys probably know, that's called a parenthetical reference or an in-text citation. Got some new messages here. Okay, thanks. And those are the page numbers inside these parentheses. All right, those are the page numbers of a printed article. You can use the page numbers on the handouts that I gave you. Okay, those articles are documents, and the documents have page numbers, so you can use those. All right, and there's only numbers in this parenthetical reference because the author is already mentioned up here. You don't need to mention the author again. It's clear that this is Lane's. These are Lane's words. Whoops, I highlighted too much. These are Lane's words. And you can find these words in the article written by Lane on pages 3 to 4. And you can go to the Works Cited list, which is alphabetized, and find Lane. And then you can go find the source, because there's all the source information you need to do that, to find the source. Okay, and that's how that works. That's how documentation works. This parenthetical reference only has an author's name in it, no page numbers. And that's because it's a website, okay? There are no pages on websites, usually. Maybe there'll be an article posted on a website and then that article has pages. If so, you can give those. But if you don't have pages, then you can't give page numbers, so you don't, okay? And then there are some articles, some sources, excuse me, that don't have a named author. Let me see if I can find that example. Sorry, I'm scrolling around. There it is right there. Okay, so that's a parenthetical reference or an in-text citation, as it's sometimes called, right? And this is a shortened version of the title because there's no named author for this source. All of your sources have named authors, so you don't need to worry about that, but that's for future reference. Okay, and I think that's all I want to talk about. If you guys have any questions about documentation while you're working through finalizing your essay, you can email me and I'm happy to answer those. Okay, any questions about documentation before I move on?
No, I think you made everything clear.
All right, thank you. Okay, let me minimize that. Let me scoot my chat window over here. All right, so the next thing I want to show you is, actually I'll show you that somewhere else. The next thing I want to show you is this right here, this assignment. So these two assignments, 4.3 and 4.4, are assignments designed to help you develop your ideas for your essay and the structure for your essay. All right, so let's take a look at this one. There's a worksheet in here that you need to download and complete. You can complete it either by hand and then take pictures. It explains how to develop a thesis statement for an argument, which I'm assuming is review for most of you. All right, but it gives you a formula to follow. And this will make sense to you when you look at it more closely. So you can download this and fill it out by hand. You can download it and fill it out digitally and then upload that. And there's the Essay 1 assignment sheet, okay? But here's the formula. Your thesis statement should start by stating what the issue is, okay? The issue is American consumerism. Then you state your position in that debate. Then you give 3 reasons to support it, and that equals your thesis. And we talked about this before earlier in the semester when we were talking about a thesis statement in general. And this is a good formula for you to use Okay, you don't always have to use this every time you write an argument, but since this is our first essay, I thought I would give you some guidance on how to develop a thesis. Okay, and again, I'm assuming for most of you, this will be review. All right, so that's one. Let me close that. And then this one is guidance on how to develop a structure or a system of organizing your ideas in your essay. There's the sample intro and thesis that I told you about. Let's take a quick look at that. Open. Okay, so here I've just given you an idea for how to develop an introduction. The job of an intro for any academic essay that you write is to explain the general topic to your audience. And in an argument, okay, the general topic is about a debate. So you're explaining the debate. Why are people arguing about this issue? And then you give your thesis. So that's that. You can take a look at that. And then this is the outline worksheet. This is the thing you need to submit to this assignment. All right, and it's just a template for how to structure your argument. Okay, how to develop individual paragraphs to support your argument. Okay, all right, and that's that. Any questions so far on the thesis statement worksheet or the outline worksheet? Yeah, we good? I'm looking at my chat, I'm looking at my windows. I don't see anybody with a question. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about this now. This is the online peer review. All right, and if this is your first time doing an online peer review in Canvas, you need to carefully read through all of these instructions. There's the assignment sheet again. All right, and here are specific instructions for what to submit to this peer review assignment. Here's a couple of samples of essays written previously by students that received good grades that you can look at as to get an idea of what you're going for here. This is wrong. I have to fix that. Okay, that was a year ago. Okay, I think this deadline is the 29th now. Let me check. For me, it's at the bottom. Yeah, I'll fix that. So that's due on the 29th. Your rough draft of essay 1 is due on the 29th. Okay, that's in 4 days. You can do it. Okay, as the water boy would say. All right, and as I was saying, here's a couple of sample essays. All right, and then these are the guidelines that you guys are going to use to give your classmates feedback on their rough draft. So you need to download this document. Okay, and then look at the guidelines in here and respond to your classmates' draft according to these guidelines. Let's take a look at them. All right, so I'm going to ask you guys to give your classmates feedback on their introduction, on their thesis statement, on the structure of their essay, and on the development, okay? In a lot of cases, the feedback that I gave you on your diagnostics was that they needed more development. All right, so you need to, peers, you need to make sure that your classmates are providing enough support for their main points, enough specific details and examples from the text, from their observations of the world around them. Does the draft deal with opposing viewpoints? Okay, you guys shouldn't be correcting anybody's sentences. All right, if anything is unclear, then you just let your peers know that this isn't clear to you. Right, and those are the guidelines. And these are instructions for how to do a peer review in Canvas, right? How to use this Canvas tool, the doc viewer, to leave feedback directly on the rough draft. And here's an example of a well-reviewed essay. Okay, this tells you how to find the feedback that's been given to you. And here are instructions and a video, all right? So everything that I think you guys need to know for how to do this is here. And if it isn't, then you need to ask me questions, okay? All right, any questions on anything I just talked about so far? Any of this stuff I covered? That's everything that you need to get done before I see you again next week. And then we're gonna start talking about essay 2. It doesn't stop. until it's over. And then we all get Christmas break, thank God. And by then, hopefully, we'll have a new president. Here's hoping. Okay, and everything will be better. All right, I'm gonna go take a nap. If there are no more questions. Let me stop sharing here. I have to move my window up.
Me too.
So I
A
can
nap
see
sounds
you.
great.
All right, a nap is in order. Okay, all right, you guys. Be sure to contact me if you run into any trouble doing these things, and don't leave them to the last minute so that you have time for that. Okay? All right. See you later. Have a good weekend. Take care.
You
Likewise.
too. Bye.
All
Bye.
righty. Bye-bye.